All right, so welcome back to News Dose. It's been a very interesting weekend watching the Concord discourse. Things did not get better for that game at all. It actually got slightly worse. We're not going to talk about that today, but instead we are going to be talking about the PS5 Pro today. We got some news on that. Also, a Nintendo Direct that was just announced, but does this indicate maybe something more? Then there is a cancellation out of the Activision group that is incredibly frustrating. So yeah, we have a lot to get into, and with that, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with Star Wars Outlaws. Now, Concord might not exactly had success last week, but maybe Star Wars Outlaws can wash that out of our mouth a little bit, but maybe not. Reviews started to come out this morning, and it currently has a 77 overall score on Metacritic with 60 reviews. Now, I don't think a 77 is necessarily a terrible score, but for a big AAA game that is apparently one of their most advertised games of all time, and I mean, this is the Star Wars IP, I would say that a 77 might come off as a little bit of a disappointment. And when you start to listen to the reviews, you start to understand why. And in fact, I actually heard today that this game doesn't really feel like a Star Wars title, which is something that Star Wars fans in general have been complaining about ever since Disney took control of the IP. So, and that's kind of been my concern for a while. I've said it on this channel before. I don't trust Disney. I don't trust Ubisoft. They're two very questionable corporations, and when you combine the two, for me, that doesn't really instill a lot of confidence. Now, honestly, though, I was really hoping that my suspicion would be wrong because, I want the Star Wars IP to do good. I know there's a ton of fans out there for this IP, and they would just love for it to come back in a major way. But so far, Star Wars Outlaws just doesn't seem like it lives up to maybe the hope and expectations that fans had. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't like it. I mean, some reviewers did, in fact, like this game very, very much. So, it really just kind of depends on your own play style. But one thing that I have consistently heard about this game is that its stealth mechanics, which is apparently a pretty major emphasis, is not fantastic. Now, there's different bugs and glitches, which, that's not great either, but to be completely honest, we're in the modern day of gaming, and it feels like a lot of games just kind of, comes out hot anymore. So I don't think that really surprises me. But nonetheless, let me know what you all think about Star Wars Outlaws right now. Are you excited about this game? Are you still going to get it despite these reviews? Do you think a 77 is good? I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know if you're going to pick it up day one when it releases later this week. Now, we also got some news for PlayStation, and okay, I understand that things have been a little bit rough for them the last few days with the release of Concord. That game has not gone the way that they were maybe hoping that it would. But I think September is going to be a lot better for them. Of course, they have Astrobot coming out here soon, and that game looks absolutely amazing. I still believe that there's a very good chance that this will be a Game of the Year candidate. I'm not saying that it will win the Game of the Year, but I would not be shocked at all if it turns out to be a Game of the Year candidate because I've played previous Astrobot games, and I know just how good Team Asobi is at making these type of games. So I'm very, very excited for that one. But even after that, Sony will be at TGS 2024, which will actually be the first time that they've been there in a very, very long time. It's been several years. So I'm kind of interested to see what they have planned for TGS. And now, on top of all of that, it sounds like they might have a PlayStation State of Play set for the end of September as well. Now, this is coming from the often leaky Jeff Grubb, and he mentioned this while talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. He said there's probably going to be a PlayStation State of Play by the end of September. And just because he was also talking about the PS5 Pro, this does seemingly suggest that we might hear about the PS5 Pro as early as next month. Now, I don't think that that's shocking news just because, I think we all kind of know that this is going to happen. There's just too much evidence that a PS5 Pro exists and it will release this year. However, it will still be very exciting to get specific details, get official information directly from PlayStation and to see what their plans are for this device. I've seen a lot of people criticize the hypothetical PlayStation 5 Pro. A lot of people believe that we don't really need this device, and okay, that's fair enough. A lot of these same things were said last generation with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. these more or less are really niche devices. They're not meant to replace the current hardware. We saw that last generation, the Xbox One S and the PS4 were still the best selling iterations in their family of consoles. But for those people that just want the best of the best, they want to get the best visuals they can, the best performance that they can, that's really the market that these consoles are made for. It's niche, but it's also significant enough to invest in. And I think for those that are interested in a device like this, it's going to be exciting to see what PlayStation has up their sleeves, hopefully by the end of September. For me personally, I'm pretty excited to see this thing. It's definitely going to make certain games better, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XVI, Elden Ring, and Wukong. All four of those immediately comes to mind. They could use some kind of performance boost, just a clarity boost in general. But I think one of the most important things that we need here is just the price. Can they get the price down enough to make it enticing? Because what I kind of fear is that this is going to come in and be a $600 device. Because if it comes out at $600, I can just kind of hear the PS3 $600 launch price echoing in my head right now. So hopefully they can find a way to keep the price down enough to make it an exciting and an enticing option. But I guess we'll see here soon enough, because it does sound like we will get that PlayStation State of Play with a possible PS5 Pro reveal sometime in the month of September. Now, unfortunately, we have a very disappointing cancellation to talk about, but I will say that there is a silver lining here, so just kind of bear with me for a moment. But yes, news broke that Activision previously canceled Crash Bandicoot 5, which actually involved both Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. Yeah, this kind of sounds like a dream game. I think fans would have absolutely lost their minds over an announcement for a game like this. Fans have been asking for a new Spyro for several decades? I know Activision previously did some stuff with this Spyro IP, but it wasn't really the Spyro that fans wanted. We want to go back to the 90s Spyro the Dragon, and for the first time in a very long time, it kind of felt like that could become a reality. Toys for Bob had been doing a very good job up to that point. They had Crash Bandicoot 4 under their belt, which was absolutely fantastic. They did the Spyro Reignited trilogy, and we were kind of hoping that maybe Spyro 4 would come after, similar to what happened with Crash 4 after the Crash Insane trilogy. It all just seemed like it was finally going to happen. But no, Activision had other plans. What they decided to do is cancel a new Crash Bandicoot 5 that possibly was going to have a crossover between Spyro and Crash. Now, the reason for this is because they opted out to do live service games instead, as Crash 4 reportedly didn't meet their lofty expectations. Now, do keep in mind that the Crash Insane trilogy sold 20+ million copies, so I imagine that the expectations were ridiculously high for Crash 4. So even if it had success, it still might not have been as much success as they were maybe hoping for. And we've kind of seen what Activision has become these last few years. They've really shifted over to being this more Call of Duty factory. They shifted most of their workforce, most of their studios over to Call of Duty at the detriment to any other franchise. And that did include Toys for Bob, Crash Bandicoot, and apparently also Spyro the Dragon. They deem Call of Duty so important that nothing else really matters to them, or at least that's the way it was before. Hopefully that will change going forward. We'll kind of see what happens with them. Now that Microsoft owns them, we'll see if they have a different philosophy, but that's where the silver lining comes here. Because keep in mind that once Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, Toys for Bob actually somehow escaped this entire situation. They are now a fully independent studio, and the first thing that they did is they signed a deal with Xbox to work on something together. And the thing is that once they announced that they were going independent, they seemingly teased that they might be working on a Spyro game. And this also followed a report that they had started development on a new Spyro game in early 2024. So, even though this new Crash 5 game was apparently canceled, this really might not be the end of the story. Now that they are working with Xbox, who owns Crash and Spyro, and it's very clear that Toys for Bob wants to work on these IP, well, then there's still a very good chance that they could just pick up right where they left off. They could take those concepts and continue to work on them under the Xbox umbrella in kind of an ironic way. And it might not be the way that we thought it was going to turn out, but the acquisition in a way, might have actually saved Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, because it did allow Toys for Bob to go free and then work with Xbox to at least work on those IP again. It's been kind of a weird turn of events, but like I said, if you are a fan of Spyro, if you are a fan of Crash, I know I very much am, then there is, I'd say, more than hope. I think there's a very good chance that this will become a reality. I don't know if it'll turn out to be the exact concept that we are hearing about here, but I definitely think that we will see Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, or possibly even both by Toys for Bob sometime in the future. It might take a little bit longer because Activision previously canceled their work, but thanks to that Xbox partnership, I believe there's a very good chance that we will see more from them in time. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about is a new Nintendo Direct, or actually a double header. I can't really recall Nintendo ever doing this before, but they have a back-to-back showcase planned for tomorrow on August 27th at 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Now, this will include an Indie World showcase and also a partner direct. Now, this unique situation has already kind of yielded a lot of theories as to why they're doing it this way. Are they possibly trying to make room for some kind of bigger showcase in the month of September? I mean, you know, Nintendo does seem to like the month of September. I think that a general direct would definitely make sense. But what people are kind of theorizing right now is, could Nintendo maybe make that Switch 2 announcement? I mean, I've been in a firm belief that a Switch 2 announcement won't come until early 2025, just because I feel like Nintendo wants the Switch to have one last holiday to itself. But, you know, at the same time, I can also say that I'd be thrilled to be wrong in this case. I want to see this thing just as much as you all do. And I mean, one thing I can say is that Nintendo has been very open about the Switch 2 here recently. You know, even in today's announcement, they mentioned that there will be no Switch 2 update. So the fact that they're outright mentioning the Switch successor now, you know, it's not like this is some kind of big secret anymore. It's coming, and it's coming fast. So an announcement for 2024 doesn't seem to be completely out of sight. It very much could actually happen. Now, will it actually happen in 2024? I mean, I would like that to be the case, but let me know what you all think. Are you on Team 2024 or are you on Team 2025? Beyond that, though, tomorrow should be a lot of fun for you Nintendo fans. There's already been some leaks for My Sims, which they could potentially announce over at the Partner Direct. My Sims, of course, is a spinoff to The Sims created for the Wii and the DS back in 2007. So a revival for that game built for the Switch, that could actually turn out to be pretty cool. The Sims is still a huge franchise all these years later, and I'd say if anything else, My Sims could have some potential on the Switch. Now, outside of that, I know the game that everybody will immediately predict, and that's Hollow Knight Silksong. I mean, it's kind of insane that we still haven't gotten an update for that game. It honestly kind of feels like it might be a Switch 2 game by this point. But I mean, I guess we'll see here soon enough. Of course, I'll keep you all updated as I'll give you the highlights tomorrow. Until then, though, that's going to be it for this episode. Do make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like this type of content. And as always, peace out.